I want to say to you ahead of time that I tried to prepare information I thought would be helpful. As Laura knows, I am very transparent, so I might share stories of successes and challenges and learning opportunities that I've had in the last 5 years since coming here. And feel free, I'll monitor the chat to ask questions. I want you to get what you need out of today. I'm really focusing on institutional strategy. And so not everything that I will share may translate to your context, right? And I just want to acknowledge, just like here at the 5 colleges that I serve all over this very large city, San Antonio is the seventh largest city in the United States. We have different cultures and contexts at each one of our colleges, like I imagine you do. And so what I hope is you'll be able to take 1 or 2 really good things away that you can use, or it will spark a larger discussion. So I'm going to share my screen, and the volume's okay, right? You can hear me okay?
All right. Yes, please. You're loud and clear.
Great. So just going to adjust my screen here so I can see. And there we go. Are you able to see my slides, Laura?
Yes, please. That's great.
Great. So this is who we are. The Alamo Colleges District serves about 100,000 students a year. That's credit and non-credit. We have 8 neighborhood and regional centers and growing. We have 5 independently accredited community colleges. They're all designated as Hispanic serving institutions. And one of our institutions is a historically Black college that is 125 years old, but has beautiful facilities and an amazing leader there in Dr. Adina Williams-Lawson. We are the largest provider of workforce training in South Texas, but we're not the only provider. This is a little bit about our 5 colleges. We are situated in Bexar County. That's how it's pronounced. You would never know by the spelling, but you can see where our centers and each of our colleges are located. And we also are heavily involved in dual credit. So we have 16 early college high schools. If students graduate and walk across the stage, they earn a high school diploma and also their associate's degree. And we're just finishing up a wonderful graduation season, so we're all excited. When I came to the Alamo Colleges District, I was recruited here to restart a initiative that the chancellor at the time was not satisfied with the progress. And I thought that I was just doing a new startup, because I had done startups before. I had worked for the state of Louisiana in helping to lead a very large adult learning initiative. And then I had been at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, as Laura. But I had to find a way to get people to trust what I was doing. The biggest fear I faced when I got here was people thought I was going to start a 6th college. You're going to start a 6th college. You're going to take students from us. And so I had to continually say, no, that's what we were not going to do. But this mission really helped me. And I continually go back to it. So I've used this for now 4 years to be clear about what we're trying to do. We're all about building our college's capacity to try to deliver premier quality digital learning experiences. And so I would start there, because I think if you're very clear about what you're trying to accomplish, and I can say this with great confidence, this mission statement has helped me to gain trust and helped me to be clear when we needed to make decisions about where we were spending our time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today, 5 years later, I lead a collective impact strategy that focuses on 4 main pillars. When I first got here, I said to our board of trustees, so we have an elected board of trustees that meets twice a month. It's a live stream televised meeting. If you ever are bored on a Tuesday night, you could watch it. It's very interesting. You learn a lot, especially in a big place like this, but you need to be prepared to answer tough questions about who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. I said to our board, we needed to focus on programs, process, and price. And when I got here, we had no idea how many programs that we had fully online. We have 75 plus level 1, level 2 certificates and associate degrees that a person could earn taking fully online courses. They're also offered face-to-face and in other modalities, but we had no catalog of those. We now have online on-demand options. We've partnered with a very large, massive open online course provider. We focused on price. We were, quite frankly, we were not priced well for people that lived outside of Bexar County. Basically, if you looked at our pricing, you would think that we didn't want to teach people outside of the county. So I worked really hard on that. And then process, we added support systems, and we're continuing to add. I'll share that with you next. I will say this to you. I think you can win on process. I don't think enough of higher education, wherever it is in the world, is focused on winning on process. What does that mean? It means frictionless. How can we make it as frictionless as possible? And someone put into my hands a couple of years ago a letter from Jeff Bezos, Amazon CEO, founder, about day one and staying day one. So I encourage you to read that if you want to think about how you win on process and if that thought interests you. But recently we've added a fourth pillar, and I'm most proud of this because I think that it is so important to put the face of an online learner. It's easy, especially where we are now, right? I heard you mention, you talked about AI, to think that just AI is just taking the class, right? And maybe that might be true in the future for some students, but the students I serve are real. They have real needs. They come from communities. They have a voice. They have a life experience. And I am very proud that we have spent lots of time, energy, and resources, both human and financial, in uncovering their stories, like Ian. And so, Laura, one of the greatest accomplishments I had this year when I presented to the board is all of my images were our students. They weren't stock. You're going to see some stock in this presentation, but you're like, wow, that you're excited about that? Yes, because I live in the 7th largest city in the United States, but I also live in the city that has the highest rate of urban poverty. And our enemy is poverty. And we are very committed to a mission of ending poverty through education. That is what we are competing against in our city. And so I just want you to know that and as you articulate, what does your collective impact strategy look like? Maybe some of these will be helpful to you. Today, I wanted to share with you, because Laura and I are IELOL alumni, and when you're an IELOL alumni, another one asks you to do something, you try to give them your very best. And so, Laura, I want you to know, I tried to think about what is the best gifts I could share with you and with your colleagues across the University of West Indies. And I cannot tell you what an honor it is to be invited and to share these with you. So I want to talk to you about knowing your students in your market and share what we're doing. I want to identify some key strategies you may be interested in. I want to encourage you to take action, because we can talk a lot, but what's most important is for us to take action and see the immediacy of the people who need what you have to offer. And how do you position yourself to seek new opportunities? And I'll talk to you about an opportunity that we've been seeking. Laura, are we good so far? I'm watching our time, trying to make sure that I tamp down I'm pretty passionate and intense, and so I can get very excited, and I'll warn you, I'm watching Laura will keep me on track. I'm just going to take a minute and grab a little bit of water. All right, so knowing your students and your market. One of the things that became important for us, as well as articulating a mission and talking about our collective impact strategy, was to tell people why. Why are we doing this? Why are we spending so much energy talking about it, money investing in it? And so we developed a statement. This is actually out of a presentation I gave to our board 2 years ago, because we wanted to be very front and center. This is our why, but do you know your why, right? Why is the University of West Indies engaged in online learning? And does everyone understand the why? The other reason that this was important is that I don't know how it's impacted you, But the great resignation that's happened in the United States and in some other parts of the world has definitely impacted us. We've seen large numbers of voluntary people leaving for private industry. And so we needed to educate folks that were coming into our organization, right? What were we doing and why were we doing it? And so this was our why statement. I won't read those to you, but I wanted to really emphasize the importance sometimes of just answering the question and remembering that you've got new people joining your organization, and it's important to not assume that everyone understands why you're doing it. The other thing that may happen, and this happened to me, is that people I have been working with for 3 years were now in different roles, right? So they had a different lens on the work we were doing. And it was important to say again, and I won't say re-educate, I don't like that word, but reintroduce them to the initiative. And it's something, Laura, I really dealt with and I'm still dealing with, like people in different seats that may have been within the organization, but they're sitting in a dean's role now. They're in a vice president's role now. And so it's important to go out and to not assume that everyone understands why you're doing what you're doing. This is our profile. So this is about knowing your students. And we are one of our 6 core values of our organization is to be data informed. Notice I did not say data driven because that leaves out the human element. So we really are focused on being data informed. I love this profile because it tells us who our learners are at the Alamo Colleges District. When I first got here, we had about 7,200 students learning fully online. This past fall, we had 13,070 students learning fully online. But there's been big shifts for us. We have more 18 to 21-year-old students learning than ever before. We have 1,000 more female students learning fully online this year than we did last year. Our average credit hour has gone from 7 to 8, meaning our fully online students are taking more credit hours, which is a good metric for us. Our state looks at credit accumulation and time to degree completion. So that's a good metric for us. Our fully online students are more full-time than ever before. So Luke, why is this important? Being able to articulate who your online students are and how they've changed over time, because we have I didn't provide this slide, Laura, but we have a slide that's pre-pandemic, and post-pandemic. But I think that, and it will cause you to ask a different set of questions, right? Like, how many are staying? How many who's graduating? Who's not graduating? Are there specific services for specific learners? So knowing your students will lead, I think, to some different conversations. Let's see. All right. All right. We also have what's called the American Community Survey. So every 10 years, the United States participates in this big thing called the census. But in between there, we collect data on communities. And we're really focused on people that finish high school and never attempt college or have some college and no degree. And there's a recent report in the United States, we're now north of 40 million people that have some college, no degree, which is not a good metric for our country. And it's a metric Laura knows well that I have been passionate about for my entire career. The reason I even got into online learning was some college, no degree. So, but the thing I realized 10 years in is that it was like a cup that I could never empty. So you would drink water, imagine having a water cup and you set it down and it fills right back up. And that's what happens with some college, no degree. But it's important that people are walking around with all of this credit and no credential. So this is talking about knowing our market. And I don't know what type of market studies you have. And there are companies you can contract with to get this for your university. But this is one of the elements that we use to look at how are we performing and to look at our opportunity. We also look at competition. So I don't know about you, maybe you are saying to yourself, we don't compete with each other. We may be on different islands, or maybe you're really saying, yeah, we compete with each other. So a feature I deal with here is with my 5 independently accredited colleges is we're competing with each other. And I'm like, well, no, you're really not. And they're like, well, how do you know, Luke? Because I buy ads. And when you buy ads on Google, you can see who else buys those words. and the same space you're buying. And so I showed this slide to show who my competition is in San Antonio. I'm competing against national brands. You may be familiar with some of these brands, right? And I'm competing with for-profits, not even with the universities here in town. So it's a misnomer. So I have to do things sometimes to educate myself and others about, wait, are we clear about who we're competing with and what are their value propositions? Do we have those same value propositions? And are we even saying it to students, right? So I hope this is helpful as we talk about knowing your students and knowing your market. This slide was very impactful because it opens people's eyes to, I'm like, no, this is data informed information going back to that value. This is our enrollment growth, our head count I mentioned to you earlier. I affectionately, jokingly call this the Dowden effect, but there are hundreds of people that are involved in our online learning enterprise. I wanted you to know that. I am really honored to do the work that I do. I have to depend heavily as a leader on influence. I actually control very little because I'm not a unique college. I'm an integrated support services unit. And I have 4 teams. We have an enrollment coach team, a marketing team, a team that does instructional design, and a team that focuses on skills. And we call it our skills lab. Remember I talked to you earlier about price. So when I lowered my price for people taking fully online programs, this is what happened. We've almost doubled the number of fully online students out of district. We have more than doubled the number that are out of state. Now, there are lots of federal policies we are facing in the United States over the next 6 to 8 months that could impact that out of district number. So one of the things I have to consistently do is pay attention to not only my own local policy, but state policy, the state of Texas, and federal policy. So a significant part of my work means I have to plug in. And I will say this to you, and I don't know if you're experiencing this as well, just the rapid amount of information to keep up with as a leader in online learning. It just never stops, whether it's state authorization or AI or gainful employment, or state reciprocity agreements. So there's a lot to keep up with. And if you're feeling that pressure and that stress, believe me, I'm right there with you. Good so far, Laura. Any questions? I don't know if anything came into the chat. I'm watching our time. I'll speed up a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just speeding through and wanted to be thoughtful about the audience. Can y'all give me a thumbs up? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying the chat is fine, your time is fine, you're good. If we have questions, ladies and gents, please do pop them in. I can always alert Luke about them.
And also, if you can give me an idea, because I can see some faces, but I can't see everyone. If you can give me a thumbs up, if this is good, if you're getting anything out of it, if you're like, go faster, be helpful. If you could use some of the emoticons, I could just kind of get a sense of the audience. So another tool I used when I got here was I needed to articulate not only what we were and what we were not, right? So we're not going to be a 6 online college. We're going to be an integrated support services unit. And I had to get comfortable repeating that over and over and over again. Remember, I work at an organization that has 5,000 employees. So you have to say the same thing a lot. But this is a tool that worked for me. I basically created a public checklist of what I was working on. I marketed it that way, and I held myself accountable to it. And I celebrated when we had wins, we as groups. So for 3 years before the pandemic, I would say, they were like, what are you working on, Dowden? And I would say, well, our key growth opportunities. This is the checklist. It's public. No, really, what are you working on? I'm working on one of these things. It's on the checklist. So I focused on refining and improving our processes, on increasing our competitiveness, on closing retention gaps. And I'll be honest with you, that's the one I'm not really satisfied with. And we're putting lots of energy this year on that item. Marketing our opportunities, I'm very pleased with. We did so well, we got some additional funds this year. But again, and then expanding our modes of delivery, and I'll share that with you a little bit later. But one of the ways I tried to build trust, and I'll be honest with you, it was very scary it's very vulnerable to put your checklist out there. But when you get questions about your work, and I don't know your culture there, but here we ask lots of questions. I mean, and I tell people all the time, we have to bring our A game every day because of just the amount of people and talent that we're surrounded by. But being transparent and being open and being honest about and having it published about what our checklist was helped. So I would offer this as a strategy as well if you're considering moving forward on some changes and some adaptations of your online learning effort. One of the things I absolutely love are communities of practice. We have not always been successful at implementing them, but where we have, these have been wildly successful. We gather around a specific idea, like digital badges, which is the one that we've had the most success with the community of practice. We identify a faculty champion. I'm at a point now where I buy part of that faculty member's time, and we meet that community of practice for that topic meets twice a semester. And our digital badge community of practice, which is the most successful one that we have, we actually take them problems now. We take them our hardest problems to solve. Like, for instance, we didn't think our evidence pages were very good. So if a person earned a badge and someone clicked on it, they would go to this evidence page, but it was bland and boring. And we did not think employers would be interested in bland and boring, that they would want more information, not less. So we brought problems like that. Our faculty also told us, we care so much about this that we want students to know that we have a badge in our course. And we're very demonstrative about making sure that was on our roadmap. We moved it up as a high priority and completed it. But I just want to give, I want to share this as a key strategy because I think communities of practice are underutilized. For faculty on the call, another popular practice, it's community practice like, but if you're trying to really move forward a specific instructional strategy or what are called teaching circles. And this may not be new to you, but I wanted to share it because there's some real value behind a type of community of practice called a teaching circle. But I just love communities of practice. Dr. Ray Schroeder, who's at University of Illinois and writes all the time in Inside Higher Education, for any of you that follow that, really was the first person to introduce this to me in IELOL, Laura. So it's the first time that I saw it. I want to encourage you to take action. So we can research, we can be interested in things, but we're not going to help people if we're not taking some action. And so in what ways? Here are ways that we did. We knew that our enrollment process needed improvement, but while we improved it, students needed help. So we have an entire enrollment coach model. We're a part of that model. We certify our enrollment coaches and we help students with onboarding and explaining tuition assistance. So it is one of the ways that we have taken action, understanding what our students' needs were. We are now in the midst of migrating to a customer relationship management system called Salesforce. That is an adventure. I'll let you know in a year how that goes. We, before I got here, had a very distinctive advising model. So we have a nationally recognized in the United States advising model that we caseload students to make sure that they know what path to be on. We even go one step further. We have a separate team that goes to our universities and negotiates agreements on behalf of our students, meaning that we'll go to the university, we'll go to Texas A&M and say, we want our students to transfer, not just a 2+2. We want to make sure they don't lose time and money. So we want you to agree that you're going to work with us for them to not lose time and money. We now are north of like 2,000 agreements and they're at the program level. They're called transfer advising guides, and they've been very powerful in us reducing the amount of time to degree completion for our own students and for students being successful at the university. It's a mammoth task, but you could do it at a small level as well. And I don't know that you have community colleges, Laura. I don't know, right? I don't know if that's a part of your ecosystem.
We do.
But I will say to you, if they are a part of who you depend on to send students to you, transfer advising guides for us have been a major win. We're getting ready to have a major announcement at the end of June with our first, not our first, but with some even augmentations of that plan. The other thing I told you earlier about collecting student stories, it wasn't enough that we collected them, we needed to share them. And so what you see are all of the ways that we are sharing the face of our online learners. These are all our students and how we are using it in digital advertising. And so I wanted to show you that because it wasn't enough that I knew my competition. I had to be able to get our message out, right? It wasn't enough that I knew their value proposition. I needed to get our message out. And so this is one of the ways that we took action. We documented our work and we went and asked for continual investment. So I'm really proud of this set of ads. I don't necessarily love everything about them, but what I love are the faces of our students and their unique stories. And you can see there's lots of diversity to celebrate and lots of uniqueness in their own journeys. We also went a little further and did a series of blogs because it wasn't enough to capture people's pictures. We wanted to capture their stories. And I really love this quote right in the middle of the page from a student. This student's blog was just really impactful. She said, "Success happens on the other side of uncomfortable." I was like, isn't that true for you as educators and us as educational leaders, that success happens on the other side of uncomfortable? And these were great for us to not only share with other students who may question their own ability to learn, may question their own resilience, not even knowing what resilience is. But we felt this was such an important part to tell stories. And I would say that to you, right? And even when you're having a bad day, right? It's a nice opportunity to go and look at the changes that you're helping to create. I'm very interested in quality. In full transparency, I sit on the Quality Matters Board of Directors. I don't know if you use Quality Matters, if you're a member of Quality Matters. It is an international course design rubric. They're getting ready to release their 7th edition rubric this summer. Highly encourage you to look at that rubric and that process for peer review. We spent 2 years taking faculty members through 2 design challenges. And Laura, if there's interest after this, I'm happy to share this with you and connect you with our instructional design manager. We used the Quality Matters rubric. We had 180 faculty complete almost 14,000 hours of course quality enhancements. And you can see the faculty completion rates of the training. Now we want to certify courses because they offer a course certification. But I do want you to know Quality Matters is an international tool and organization. And you know, I cannot say enough about the quality of the rubric for credit and non-credit training. And I'm very excited about the 7th edition. I see Michelle shaking her head, so I hope Michelle says, "Hey, I'm familiar with this." So I just will tell you one of the ways that we are continuing to try to take action is to improve the quality of courses. And I can say we've probably got 7,000 course sections a semester. Because that's how we're organized in like these 16-week semesters. We have 8-week courses, we have 5-week courses. That's another way we've taken action. Laura, I left it out, but this is the bonus material for the folks that showed up. We've gotten into what we call flex terms. So we are offering courses in lots of flexible ways, and we know from student surveys they want that. I wouldn't say just do flex courses because Luke said it's cool. If your students say it and they want it, then it may be something that you're already doing, Laura, I don't know, or that you're considering doing. But it is definitely something that's that has been successful in the United States in online programs that want to add more students. So if you want to grow enrollment, I don't know if you have an incentive to grow enrollment, flexible courses, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, I'm a fan of 8 weeks, is really helpful. All right. Looking at the time, we're doing really well. Great. Thank you for your comments, Sandra. All right. So what about seeking new opportunities? So I hope you can appreciate this story. If it's happened to you, please put a heart, because then I'll know, like, right. Spring of 2021, March, February 2021, right? We've just finished our full year in the pandemic. My chancellor comes to me. My chancellor is the one employee of our 10 elected board of trustees. And then he has 5 presidents that report to him, as well as a host of other strategic leaders like me. He says, what new things are you tracking, Luke? I said, well, I've been watching this thing called micro credentials and alternate credentials. I've been tracking that. He goes, all right. We had a few more conversations, and then he said, so I need you to have a report ready for the board in 3 weeks. We have our pre-budget retreat. Our budget is September through July, but we work on our next year's budget for several months. I was like, do you mean 3 weeks from now? He said, yes. I said, okay, so one of the things is be ready if you're asked that question, but also know what might come after it. And I had an inkling, in fairness, right? So in 3 weeks, I had to tell our board what we were going to do, how we were going to do it. I did stand up a design team that I led for 18 months. We closed it down last summer and moved work into another committee. So my work went from that collective impact strategy that you saw to now I have 2 other metrics, not just growing online enrollment, but increasing micro credentials and creating micro pathways. So my job duties and the metrics I'm responsible for have increased in the last 2 years. So sometimes you seek opportunities and sometimes they seek you. And but I hope you can appreciate that. So here's where we ended up. Sorry. So in case you don't know, I didn't want to assume, this is how we define a micro credential. It's non-college credit training. It's where someone studies, practices, and improves a specific skill, and it signals completion of skills-based learning. Digital badges are just one type of micro credential. And I'll be very honest with you, we had been doing lots of work around digital badges before we really elevated our work into micro credentials. We've been doing non-credit training forever. You have as well. Micro credentials are a new way that we're talking about it, but there's something different happening in the United States. We are very focused on skills-based hiring. So lots of companies, IBM started it. IBM removed the bachelor's degree from 50% of their jobs globally, not just in the United States, globally. Walmart followed. I don't know if there's Walmart in the University of West Indies, but Walmart is a large chain of stores in the United States, a significant employer from small towns to large towns, right? I grew up in a really, really small rural town. My mom still lives on a dirt road. And so Walmart's a big employer. They've removed it as well. So digital badges are one type of micro credential. We offer it 2 ways. We worked with faculty and integrated a digital badge in a course, and we also have them as standalone micro courses. So we are working with employers and training their frontline employees on these skills. What's a badge? So a badge is not a digital sticker, right? It is a credential that consists of metadata that says what it is the person knows, can do at some level. It typically has skill tags and those type things. And again, if you know about this, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but I didn't want to assume as well. This is a part of you're experiencing my culture and context coming through in this, right? Where we still, as long as we've been doing digital badges and we've been in this work since fall of 2019, I still have to educate our faculty and our staff about this. So these were very helpful slides for me, Laura, when we were talking about what is this. I will be honest with all of you. We reached a point where we had to stop talking about badges and we had to start talking about skills because people just got focused on the thing and not what it represented. And so about 2 years in, I was just like, y'all, we gotta change the game up. People are focused on the iconography and not the what it is that we're trying to do. We had this successful initiative. It's called Course Plus Badge. We took faculty members through a 10-week online training. One of the things we did was talk to them and really elevated mapping skills that they were already teaching. And our sell to faculty members is you're teaching these things, but it's not apparent to an employer when they look at a course description or a transcript that you're actually teaching critical thinking or that you're actually teaching empathy. So one of our first faculty member to go through teaches a death and dying course. So in the United States, we have a program called Mortuary Science, which trains people on how to work in funeral homes. And one of the courses is death and dying. And there was a significant amount of the skill of empathy being taught, but you wouldn't necessarily glean that out of learning outcomes in a course description. So one of the things that I would say this to you, we're not telling faculty they're not doing something. We're saying, no, we think you're actually doing this at a very high level and it's invisible. And we want to make it visible, right? So for me, I'll talk to you, educator to educator. One of this is about honoring some learning that's hidden in your curriculum. Or maybe you may be doing an exceptional job at teaching skills like resilience, right? That aren't very present. We focused on this set of marketable skills. We call them marketable skills. We don't like the soft skills language, but if that's the language you use, fine. Use whatever language that people use. In the United States, we refer to them as uniquely human, especially with AI. Marketable skills, durable skills. There are some studies about these skills surviving over time. So, technical skills, there's like a half-life of, used to be 5 years. I think there's probably a half-life of 3 years, but these skills last a lifetime. And there are studies that have tracked the durability of these skills. We did not create our own competency frameworks. I also want to be honest. We adopted the Education Design Lab. They do some exceptional work. They have a competency framework that we adopted. And one of our guiding principles is there's a lot of organizations in the United States trying to codify skills. We're not into that business. We can't afford to be. We will align to an existing competency framework. And that's what we did here. And we also considered faculty. Would this be easy for our faculty? So this is what we offered. Here's our work. We're now up to over 100 sections that integrate at least one of these marketable skills assessments leading to a digital badge. So there's skills assessments that measure sub-competencies, stack together, and lead to a digital badge. And this is our results. Very proud of this. We're collecting student survey data. Our students, remember, who many are first-generation college students, right, are talking about skills. This is an equity issue. If you are preparing people for the future workforce, they need to know these skills. They need to know they have them. You need to, and I rarely like to use that statement, but I am imploring you to make sure that you are making visible the skills, these skills that I am certain you are teaching your students and your learners. I really believe this is for us an equity issue, because not everyone has the benefit of a household, right, where their parents are highly educated and can talk to them about skills like my sons benefit from, right? I didn't have that benefit. My mother was highly educated, my father was not. And so, I understand the benefits and the power that you can have. So, and the other thing that I would point out to you, because you're like, oh, everybody gets a sticker. No, it's not a sticker. And notice our earn rate. We put this out here, we publish it. Not everyone earns a badge. Everyone has an equal opportunity, but not everyone completes the skills assessments, okay? And I think it's important to show this because it goes to the integrity of what we're trying to accomplish. We're not just sticking it in there for show. We're not just trying to be the first to issue 1,000 badges in a day. We are really trying to impact skills and visibility of these skills. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox, Laura. I'm sorry. I just am very passionate about this for people. We have moved outside of that, and we now have what's called an employability skills bundle. I am selling this to employers. We are putting this into training with employers. I just met with an employer yesterday that's taken a series of frontline workers through this training, and the reactions have been really great. So we have micro courses that are about 15 hours that a person can take. And so this is our employability skills bundle. But it's one of the ways when you this is an opportunity we're actually seeking, right? It's not the one that came to our door. It's the one that we said, oh, employers need this. The other thing that I would say to you is that you're an employer as well. So if you're in a situation where you're engaging, I don't know what the main business and industry is there, but make sure you're showing up as an employer too, because one of the things that is a real gap for leaders that I'm around in the United States is we are not trained enough on how to talk to business. And you may have that, maybe you, but we are not trained enough on how to have conversations. For instance, give you an example. You're meeting with an employer and they're asking you to provide a training for which your faculty don't have the training to provide. Most of the time, we don't ask them, what are you willing to contribute? And do you have people that can teach in our program? Because they have qualified people that are asking for these things. So that's one of the examples. We've moved into on-the-line, on-demand training. We do have a private partner for this. So another strategy I've used is to buy, build, or partner. And we could not build this on our own. We could not keep up with Google and Meta and IBM. They were putting all of their training on a very large platform. I'm not using the name on purpose because I don't want to influence you unduly. But we have had some success with partnering with an online on-demand company. We lucked up. Google is giving this away. I don't know if y'all are a part of Grow with Google, but you can get access to, Google is trying to train the world. And we have a significant number of licenses to one of their professional certificates. So they have professional certificates. They just released the cybersecurity one. We provided it for free to our students, to all of our alumni, because we think it is an added micro credential that someone can get that makes them hireable. I'll tell you something else that Google's doing, and you may have this, but I think it's so cool, and I don't know why we haven't figured this out already, we being higher education as a whole. They have hiring consortiums. So if you earn one of their professional certificates, and they're normally anywhere from 5 to 8 courses, it takes about a month each is what they say, you get access to a hiring consortium. So they help you get to compete for a job. And I don't know about you, but we're not doing that at a great level. We could do that much better. So this is another innovation that we're spending a lot of time on. Now what I want to do, and I'm hiring someone, you'll see a post on LinkedIn if you follow me on LinkedIn coming out soon. We're going to have a coordinator of credit for prior learning that helps us to accelerate us moving this from non-credit to credit, because I actually think these are on-ramps or entry pathways into our colleges. So that's how I'm thinking differently about it. So y'all know I'm giving you all the good stuff. This is the strategy of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So where are we going next? And this is the last slide. I've been talking at you for quite a while. I hope I've kept your attention. This is where I'm going next. I had to tell my board in March, that is a command televised recorded performance, live streamed. And this was the last slide I showed them, and I thought it was an appropriate place. We're not satisfied. It's not enough to grow online enrollment. We want people to earn credentials. We want people to get good jobs. We want people to be connected to our institution. We want them to always come back to us and be continuous lifelong learners. So we've got to do better at this. We were only marketing our programs 3 months out of the year. Guess what? Those competitors that I showed you never stopped. So we got to be more frequent in the market. We have to champion credit for prior learning. We have an underdeveloped system here, and we've got to do a better job of championing credit for prior learning. We need to do accelerated programs. If you want me to come back and talk to you about that, I made a living for 8 years at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette doing online accelerated programs. I grew an RN to BSN from 2 students to 860 students at its height. And I believe in it. There's some really good systems, and you can have an opportunity. That's that flexible piece I talked about early, Laura. We're going to use AI to help us with online student communities. There is a product out there that we've seen some promising results with in the US, affordable, that we're going to create we need to create greater connection for our online learners. We're going to go deeper with micro-credentials. We think it is another product we need to offer, and we're missing a market. I tested them. I'll share a resource with you after that and can tell you about that. And we're going to go deeper in course certification. We really got stalled by the pandemic, but we're going to turn our attention back to course quality. And it's not content for faculty members on the call. Quality Matters is about design, navigation, accessibility, interaction with students. Did you tell them your name and introduce yourself? Do they know where your office is and how to get in touch with you? Do they know that you have office hours and how to reach you during those? So we're going to go a little bit deeper there.